we want to establish a multiplayer vertical. There are other studios working on multiplayer product. I do think it is one of the futures of gambling and gaming. This idea of playing against the players, fits very well in the space. I know the digital space, but we think it's going to lend itself very well to the retail world.
Hello and welcome to the latest Beyond the Reels. Joining us in this episode is Justin Chamberlain, the CEO and founder of HungryBear Gaming, who will be taking us on a tour of the studio's new multiplayer game, SlotMasters. How are you doing today, Justin?
I'm very good. Yeah, very good indeed. Thank you, James.
Good stuff. So, like I said, we're going to go into SlotMasters in a second, but can you just tell the viewer a little bit about yourself and HungryBear?
Yeah, so HungryBear is a new venture for us. Well, about 3 years, just approaching our third year. But I'm 15 years in the industry now, having built several studios. The last studio, Core Gaming, we sold to Sky Betting Gaming. Exited there in 2018 and started up again, developing traditional slots and table games content for the online casino market.
Perfect. And, we're going to look into SlotMasters now. And simply put, it's a multiplayer title. I like the look of this. I think it's got a lot of potential. Can you just tell me what inspired you to delve into the realm of multiplayer slot titles?
I suppose the main reason really was innovation. We're always looking to innovate. There's a lot of slots providers in the space. There's a lot of content. Saturation in the marketplace is really high. So to stand out with standard single player games is becoming harder and harder. We are developing single player slot games and table games for a number of clients, but it's so hard to get a slot picked up, positioned, marketed properly. So that combined with a passion for originality and innovation and doing something new set us on the path for multiplayer. But we're also considering where the market is now, who the typical player is now, and who the typical player is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm pinning my hopes on that. The millennial generation are going to want and possibly demand a multiplayer experience when they come to, when they become slots players. Having a 17-year-old son who's grown up knowing nothing but multiplayer, he won't play campaign single player games on his console. He's played multiplayer all of his life. So I figure that's the next generation of slots player. If we don't provide a multiplayer experience, I don't think we're going to provide an experience that they'll engage with.
And, the development of this title, not only did you have to develop a traditional slot in a sense to make it engaging and fun as you would every other kind of single player slot title, you then had to throw multiplayer in there. What challenges did you encounter throughout the development of this slot?
Huge, and they're still ongoing. We're integrating the product now to a number of operators, and we're still facing challenges. The first and the biggest, though, was, as you said, actually, the first challenge was had to look and feel like a slot. In 15 years of developing games, what I have learned is if you develop a slot that doesn't a slot engine but doesn't look like a slot on the front end, players don't tend to engage with those games. So we had to keep the basic visual representation of a slot. It had to feel like a slot, spin like a slot, play out like a slot. Challenge 1 and then challenge 2 was to build the weapons layer on top of that. A game has never been developed before where you're seeing your window and 2 other players' windows at the same time, seeing their spins, their results, their actions. So there's a very complex database and script structure that sits behind this that allows for all that to be presented in one game client.
And you kind of touched on it a little bit, just how it looks visually. But jumping into the game, can you just walk us through how the title works and what players can expect to experience?
Yeah, so the principle is you're playing against random people. You choose one of a number of tournaments to play, be it a daily game, weekly game, weekend game. Each game would have a different set of parameters to that game, how long the game lasts, what the price structure is, what the leaderboard looks like. When you enter that game, you are then the lobby will place you randomly against 2 other players. You get into the game and you're in then a 2-minute battle, or a 3-minute battle, or a 1-minute battle. In the period of that game time, that 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you are spinning to collect points, which you're trying to carry forward to the leaderboard. So a slot, as everyone knows it, but our clever meta layer in the game then is a layer of weapons sitting on top of that slot. If you land a war chest on the middle reel, that opens up your war chest to you. You and all the other players start the game with a fixed number of weapons. So then it becomes there's a lot of skill then in how and when you deploy those weapons. Those weapons can be used I can use them to attack you, to steal points from you, to defend myself, to freeze you out of the game. It's about that further layer of engagement that a single player experience can't bring you. Single player slots are very passive, very sit and spin and watch for results. This was about actually getting me engaging on fighting you and somebody else for points in the game. And I'm going to use my weapons, hopefully more smartly than you use yours, and come out, get to the end of that game and carry a lot of points then to the leaderboard.
Yeah, and again, you just touched upon it. The game introduces choice elements for the players that, again, like impact other players' experiences. And you just delve a bit more into the certain symbols that you can use to impact the other player's game. So they know the attack, the defense. Yeah,
so in principle, attacking weapons are defensive weapons. On the defensive weapons, you can freeze another player. So you hit them with a freeze and you'll stop them spinning for 10 seconds. You can lock another player's middle reel so they can spin and collect points, but they can't land a war chest. You can lock their war chest for 10 seconds. So again, they could get a war chest, but they can't use it. There's 4 attacking weapons, the most powerful being what we call the raid weapon. And that allows me to steal 100% of your balance at any point in the game. There's a thief weapon which steals 50% of your balance. There's a sword which cuts your balance in half, and one of the most fun ones, there's a bomb, which we like to call that's the kind of spiteful weapon. We're in the dying seconds of the game and you're beating me on points, and I don't want you to win, but I can't win. I can bomb your score back to 0. So I can bomb a lot of points out of the game. Very, very spiteful to use it. It's very annoying, but good fun because it just levels the playing field potentially in any point of the game.
And you mentioned as well, we mentioned in the conversation, or you mentioned it anyway, and the title will be coming with seasonal updates. First of all, is this kind of inspired by kind of your free-to-play games like Fortnite that we see it in like video games like PUBG, Halo's introduced it and so forth. A lot of free games are introducing this, it's fun, it keeps the game fresh. And if you're allowed to say, what could these seasonal updates include?
Again, a standard slot never updates. You put it on the shelf and it sits there forever. We see an opportunity here to tap into that requirement from users for fresh environments. So we're going to update the skin of the game to new themes. We're going to introduce new weapons on a quarterly basis. So keep the principle of the games the same. I'm in a slots tournament and I'm fighting, but we might move from the current season being a medieval season. Probably the next season we're going to release will be a space-based theme where we introduce new weapons, new functionality. And we hope that's then going to make keep the game refreshed and keep people revisiting to play with different weapons, to play in different ways. We think that's the future of the game for sure.
Cool. And you mentioned the theme being a fantasy kind of medieval one for the launch. What made you go for that genre as your first kind of depiction of SlotMasters? Because it sets the tone.
Yeah, again, I don't mind admitting we're borrowing from the popularity of something, the Clash of Clans. Very, very popular game in the social space and in the App Store. I like that look and feel. I like that theme to a game. It lent itself very well to some of our games that were in development, some of our standard slot games. So we've used that in our first season. It's been very well received by operators. It's it's soft, it's friendly, it's a nice, easy theme to work with.
Mm-hmm. And this is a question I ask pretty much everyone who comes on Beyond the Reels, because the player is always at the forefront of every supplier developer's mind when creating a title. What is the main thing that you wanted to stand out instantly when a player opens SlotMasters?
It has to be that you are playing against other people. That's our differentiator. That's our innovation. It's been attempted, actually. I can't say it's never been done. Multiplayer or community has been attempted a few times, but I don't think, and certainly the popular opinion seems to be, that it's ever been done properly. It's certainly never been done in this way. We get that feedback from all the operators that we pitch the product to, that it's never been done with a meta layer of weapons as such. So yeah, it has to be that, and in the current version, this is phase 1, free to play, where we don't decide who we're playing against. We enter a lobby, and the lobby matches us up against random players. But as we mature the product, we're now maturing a version 2, where we move the product to real money, and we're going to move to a model that allows me to decide who I'm going to play. So I'm going to invite you and another friend to come and play. That again aligns more with multiplayer in the console space. True multiplayer is playing against your friends. Absolutely underpinning all of this is it's a multiplayer game. That's the key standout for this game.
The final question that I'm going to ask right now is, what is your dream outcome for SlotMasters?
To create a new genre for the industry, a new vertical multiplayer, and we want to establish a multiplayer vertical. There are other studios working on multiplayer product. I do think it is one of the futures of gambling and gaming. We were first in market with SlotMaster as a true multiplayer. I think we can establish a vertical. I think we can populate that vertical with our free-to-play models, our multiple real money models that we're working on. And I think other providers will come along with other multiplayer products that might hopefully fit under that same genre. But do that, we aim to do that in the digital space and the retail space, which we're also working with some key partners on now. This idea of playing against the players, fits very well in the space. I know the digital space, but we think it's going to lend itself very well to the retail world, where a player or players will be sat at a number of cabinets, spinning, and then interacting with other players on other cabinets. That's another big part of our vision. Yeah.
Perfect. And I said it at the start. I've seen many different variations of like multiplayer slots. I've seen some MMO styles, and they looked so promising, and they kind of just fell off the wayside. You've not heard them since. This one, I will say now, has got potential. I think it could be a springboard for many other suppliers to kind of take inspiration from and just leap multiplayer forwards. So I'm excited to see what's going to be coming in the future for it. I'm going to keep a close eye on it, and I just want to thank you for joining us today and walking us through it, because it is a great concept, and it's one that, like you said, it's going to be that next generation of slots. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. That feedback's fantastic for us. We do get really good feedback every time we pitch the product to operators. I am convinced it is going to set a new trend for the industry, a multiplayer vertical, and I really hope that other studios do take a lead from this and do develop multiplayer games, because I think the next generation, I'm convinced they're going to demand it. My 17-year-old and 14-year-old boy don't know single player. They don't know campaign mode on Call of Duty. They know multiplayer. They play against their friends. They play against strangers all day long. We've got to do that in this industry. Otherwise, we won't convert those players to slots players in the future.